"You will not recognize me," Vivian Hayes whispered to herself as she adjusted the emerald green gown draped perfectly over her shoulders, the soft fabric catching the golden light of the grand chandelier above. The Lexington Hotel ballroom stretched before her, glittering with polished marble floors and tables adorned with crystal glassware, each reflective surface amplifying the elegance of the evening. Guests in tuxedos and flowing gowns murmured softly, their attention unconsciously drawn to the subtle shift in energy as she took her first deliberate step into the center of the room. Nathaniel Drake stood near the grand staircase, a tall figure of composed confidence, surveying the crowd with a practiced smile, unaware that the carefully constructed world he had built around his perceived control was about to be upended. The low hum of conversations blended with the delicate strings of a live quartet, creating a symphony of ambience that underscored both sophistication and anticipation. Vivian's gaze swept across the room, noting the placement of every guest, the subtle tilt of heads, the quiet murmurs that rippled like a wave, confirming her presence and the power she now carried effortlessly. She inhaled deeply, the cool air carrying hints of roses and fine perfume, grounding her in the moment and amplifying the serenity in her stance. Her hand brushed the smooth crystal of a nearby table as if claiming the space, an imperceptible gesture of ownership, and the soft ripple of silk against marble announced her approach without a word. Nathaniel's eyes flicked toward her, a flash of recognition and disbelief crossing his face, the years of assumed dominance momentarily unsettled by the unexpected authority and poise radiating from the woman he had underestimated. Every step Vivian took was calculated, graceful yet purposeful, a movement that harmonized with the gentle cadence of her heartbeat and the string quartet's rising notes. She recalled the months since their separation, the painstaking rebuilding of confidence, the careful accumulation of achievements and alliances that had elevated her presence beyond the reach of past insecurities, the private victories that now manifested in every glance, every tilt of her chin, every subtle smile that hinted at the strength beneath the surface. The room seemed to breathe with her, the chandeliers casting patterns of light and shadow that accentuated the flowing contours of her gown, the subtle sparkle of her jewelry catching glimmers of attention without arrogance or overt display. Guests unconsciously shifted to accommodate her movement, their focus realigned, whispers exchanged with tones of admiration and curiosity, and all the while Nathaniel's gaze lingered, searching for the woman he once knew and finding someone entirely new, poised, and in control. Dominic West, standing quietly at her side, reinforced the aura of influence and support, his calm presence a subtle, yet powerful contrast to Nathaniel's momentary hesitation. Every detail, from the polished floors to the reflections in crystal, from the soft hum of conversation to the delicate cadence of music, converged into a tableau of tension, elegance, and authority. Vivian paused for a brief heartbeat at the center of the room, allowing her gaze to sweep the assembled guests, her expression serene yet commanding, an unspoken promise that the evening would unfold entirely on her terms, every movement, every glance, every breath signaling the poised and unstoppable force she had become, leaving Nathaniel frozen and the audience captivated, anticipating the next deliberate step in her graceful reclamation of presence and power. Madeline Hayes moved gracefully through her modern apartment, the morning sunlight streaming across the polished wooden floors and illuminating the elegant, minimalistic decor that reflected her refined taste. She adjusted the sleeve of her casual chic blouse, her expression focused and serene as she sipped a steaming cup of coffee and scrolled through her tablet, reviewing schedules, emails, and messages that reflected both professional ambition and personal organization. The faint scent of fresh roses from a small vase on the counter mixed with the aroma of coffee, grounding her in a moment of quiet routine, each movement deliberate and measured, conveying control and calm determination. Books and carefully curated art pieces adorned the walls, the soft textures of the linen curtains moving slightly with the breeze from an open window, all emphasizing the balance between elegance and comfort. A private sanctuary where she could prepare herself mentally and emotionally for the world outside. Her posture remained poised, the gentle tilt of her head and the subtle arch of her back indicating confidence, and the awareness of her own capabilities. Every detail from the polished surfaces to the natural light emphasizing the careful harmony of her space. As she took another measured sip, her eyes briefly closed in a moment of reflection, recalling the months of rebuilding, the challenges she had faced, and the victories, both small and significant, that had brought her to this sense of self-assurance. A soft chime from the tablet reminded her of upcoming appointments and interactions, each notification received with the composed acceptance of someone who understood the value of preparation and presence. Her gaze lingered on a framed photograph of a city skyline, the light reflecting off the glass casting subtle patterns across the floor, reinforcing her connection to both her personal achievements and the broader world she navigated with. Poise. Even the smallest gestures, like brushing a strand of hair behind her ear or adjusting the angle of her tablet, conveyed intentionality, a narrative of resilience, patience, and thoughtful action that shaped not only her immediate environment, but her perception of self and the influence she could wield. Every sound, every scent, and every reflected light contributed to the sensory backdrop of a woman fully engaged in the rhythm of her life, a space where control, calm, and confidence converged into an unmistakable presence, preparing her for the complex, high-stakes interactions that awaited outside the safety and clarity of her morning routine. Ethan Drake stood in his high-rise office, the morning sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and casting long shadows across the sleek, polished surfaces of his desk and conference table. Dressed in a tailored dark suit, he held a steaming cup of coffee, his expression focused and contemplative as he scanned spreadsheets and correspondence on his tablet, each document representing decisions, strategies, and professional responsibilities that defined his presence and influence. The faint hum of city traffic below and the soft clatter of distant construction combined with the subtle aroma of espresso to form a layered sensory backdrop, grounding him in the rhythm of his daily life. Papers were neatly arranged with digital devices strategically placed, reflecting both efficiency and a carefully curated workspace that reinforced his image of control and authority. His posture was upright and assured, every movement deliberate as he reviewed his schedule, adjusted documents, and checked notifications, balancing analytical thought with executive intuition. The reflection of sunlight on polished surfaces created intricate patterns, echoing the complexity of his role and the weight of decisions he bore while maintaining composure and clarity. Ethan's eyes occasionally lifted to the expansive skyline, the distant horizon offering both inspiration and perspective, a visual reminder of the scale and stakes of the business world he navigated daily. Subtle details, such as the slight tilt of his chin or the careful placement of his hands on the desk, conveyed confidence, attention to detail, and the quiet authority that came from experience and preparation. The ambient sounds of the office, the gentle whir of air conditioning, faint conversations in adjoining rooms, and the muted keystrokes of assistants, provided a rhythmic undertone to his methodical workflow, emphasizing the balance between external activity and internal focus. Every glance at screens, every swipe of the tablet, and every adjustment to documents reinforced the narrative of a man fully engaged in his responsibilities, commanding his environment with quiet precision and strategic foresight. As he set down his coffee and straightened his jacket, his gaze returned to the skyline once more, a brief pause in the midst of a structured routine, a reflection on the trajectory of his career and the awareness that each decision, interaction, and calculated move contributed to the larger pattern of influence and control that defined him, leaving a composed figure of authority poised to meet the day ahead with clarity and deliberate purpose. Madeline Hayes and Ethan Drake entered the luxurious Gala hall together, the soft golden glow of chandeliers illuminating the polished marble floors and casting gentle reflections across the elegant crowd. Guests in formal attire murmured quietly, sensing the subtle tension in the air as the two figures approached a poised antagonist standing at the center of the room, his expression composed but sharp, radiating authority and expectation. Vivian's emerald gown shimmered as she moved with calculated grace, her baby bump subtly visible, while Ethan's tailored dark suit contrasted perfectly with the warm lighting, his posture confident yet attentive, aware of the dynamics shifting around them. The soft hum of conversation blended with the delicate notes of the string quartet, each sound punctuating the anticipation and underlying drama of the encounter. The air thick with unspoken assessments and subtle power plays. Every glance, every slight tilt of the head, every micro expression carried meaning, indicating alliances, influence, and the careful calibration of social presence. As each of the three participants gauged reactions, readiness, and intentions in a silent dance of strategy, the subtle scent of fresh roses mingled with the faint aroma of fine cologne, further enhancing the sensory depth of the room and emphasizing the gravity of the interactions, while reflections from crystal glassware and polished surfaces mirrored the intricate interplay of posture, gesture, and eye contact. As Vivian and Ethan approached, their movements synchronized yet individually expressive, the antagonist's eyes flickered with awareness, recognizing both the authority and poise they now commanded, signaling that the encounter would unfold with heightened stakes and unspoken tension. Every step forward, every measured gesture, every slight change in expression conveyed the narrative of reclaimed power, strategic awareness, and anticipation of the next moves, the scene, capturing the cinematic essence of control, subtle confrontation, and social mastery, while the guests unconsciously became part of the tableau, their reactions reinforcing the emergent authority of Vivian and Ethan and the growing awareness that the evening's events would pivot entirely around the poised, powerful presence of the two figures now fully engaged in the complex, unfolding dynamics of the gala setting. Madeline Hayes stood alone in a quiet corner of the art gallery, her emerald green gown softly illuminated by the overhead spotlights as she observed an abstract painting with a contemplative gaze. The room was filled with elegant patrons, soft chatter, and the gentle clinking of glasses, yet her presence commanded a subtle focus, every movement poised and deliberate, conveying both independence and confidence. Light from the gallery reflected off crystal vases and polished surfaces, casting delicate patterns across the floors and highlighting the textures of her dress and surroundings, emphasizing her careful attention to detail and the calm authority she carried effortlessly. The faint scent of fresh flowers mingled with the subtle aroma of fine wine, enhancing the sensory depth of the moment, grounding her in a serene awareness of self and space. Her hand rested lightly on a nearby pedestal as she shifted her weight gracefully, her expression calm yet reflective, hinting at a life thoughtfully constructed and carefully managed. As she moved from one artwork to another, her gaze was measured, absorbing colors, shapes, and nuances with deliberate focus, each subtle gesture reinforcing her composure and the quiet strength that defined her presence. Patrons glanced toward her occasionally, noticing the balance of elegance and poise she exuded, the effortless confidence that drew attention without demanding it, and the quiet assertion of individuality in a room filled with social activity. Her posture remained perfectly aligned, head held high, shoulders back, breathing steady and controlled, each step a subtle statement of self-possession and dignity. The soft hum of background conversations, the gentle echo of footsteps on polished floors, and the ambient glow of gallery lights created a harmonious backdrop, reinforcing the tranquility and controlled ambience she inhabited. Her eyes briefly closed as she absorbed the atmosphere, the soft interplay of light, color, and sound grounding her in a moment of reflection, while the slight smile that curved her lips suggested satisfaction and pride in her journey and the space she now occupied. Every movement, glance, and gesture in this setting contributed to the narrative of a woman who had reclaimed her autonomy, cultivated her taste, and navigated her environment with precision, leaving an impression of serenity, mastery, and understated influence on all who observed her, a moment of quiet triumph captured in the richness of the gallery's visual and sensory landscape. Madeline Hayes and Ethan Drake returned to the grand ballroom, the golden light of chandeliers casting warm reflections across the polished marble floors and crystal-adorned tables, creating a radiant backdrop for the unfolding evening. They moved with deliberate composure, side by side, each step measured and poised, exuding confidence and quiet authority as their presence subtly reshaped the energy of the room, drawing glances, whispers, and unspoken acknowledgement from the elegantly dressed guests. The gentle hum of conversation, punctuated by the soft resonance of a string quartet, provided an ambient rhythm that mirrored the careful cadence of their movements and the underlying tension in the air, the space alive with anticipation yet contained within the elegance of the gala setting. Madeline's emerald green gown shimmered under the soft glow of light. The gentle curve of her baby bump a subtle testament to the life she carried forward, while Ethan's tailored dark suit emphasized his composed strength, both figures harmonizing in posture, expression, and presence to convey unity and shared influence. Reflections from crystal glassware, polished surfaces, and subtle highlights on the chandeliers enhanced the visual narrative, each glimmer echoing the interplay of authority, poise, and strategy that defined their interaction with the assembled crowd as they navigated past familiar faces. Each subtle gesture, nod, and measured glance communicated awareness, command, and respect, establishing a presence that neither demanded attention through volume nor through overt display, yet remained undeniable to anyone observing. The scent of fresh roses, mingled with soft notes of fine perfume, carried through the warm air, complementing the visual elegance and enhancing the sensory depth of the scene, while the ambient sounds of laughter, movement, and music reinforced the dynamic of a room subtly reshaped by the poised intervention of these two figures. Moments of reflection passed as Madeline and Ethan observed the slight shifts in posture, attention, and whispers among guests, recognizing how their presence altered perception, elevated awareness, and redefined the social balance of the evening. Every step, gesture, and nuanced expression contributed to a living narrative of empowerment, resilience, and strategic mastery, conveying the culmination of careful preparation, personal growth, and the quiet assertion of influence. The room itself seeming to acknowledge their authority and composure. As they approached the center of the room, the choreography of light, reflection, and attentive gazes created a tableau of cinematic elegance, reinforcing the impression of deliberate control, mutual support, and the unspoken power that emanated from their union, leaving the guests, observers, and especially Nathaniel Drake in a state of awe and anticipation for the moments yet to unfold, capturing the essence of reclaimed presence, poised influence, and sophisticated triumph. Madeline Hayes and Ethan Drake moved with deliberate grace through the grand ballroom, the ambient golden light of chandeliers reflecting softly off polished marble floors and crystal-adorned tables, creating a warm, radiant environment that highlighted the elegance and sophistication of the evening. Each step they took was measured, conveying both composure and quiet authority, their expressions calm yet purposeful, commanding attention without need for words, as whispers rippled through the crowd and glances shifted subtly toward them. The soft strains of the string quartet provided a rhythmic underscore, harmonizing with the poised cadence of their movements, every sound and note accentuating the tension and anticipation that filled the space, while the ambient scent of fresh roses and fine perfume layered over the gentle murmur of conversation, adding depth to the sensory atmosphere. Their coordinated presence emphasized mutual support and strategic awareness, with Vivian's a distance displayed a mixture of surprise and calculated composure, the tension in his expression betraying his awareness that the balance of influence had shifted irrevocably, his prior certainty disrupted by the poised authority and quiet determination that radiated from Vivian and the strategic support of Ethan. Each micro-expression, the gentle sweep of a gown, the slight tilt of a head, and the controlled breathing of both figures contributed to a cinematic narrative of empowerment, patience, and strategic mastery, the room itself seeming to acknowledge their presence and the careful orchestration of the unfolding interactions. Every reflective surface, every glint of light, and every subtle shift in the attention of guests reinforced the emergence of Vivian and Ethan as central forces within the gala, their silent command evident in the alignment of glances, the soft adjustment of posture among observers, and the palpable anticipation of what would come next. The choreography of presence, light, and sound created a living tableau of composure, influence, and reclaimed authority, leaving the audience, the guests, and Nathaniel Drake suspended in quiet tension, aware that the next moments would fully reveal the depth of strategic poise and understated triumph embodied by the two figures at the center of this elegant and meticulously staged evening. Madeline Hayes and Ethan Drake moved deliberately toward the center of the grand ballroom, the soft golden glow of chandeliers highlighting the subtle contours of their elegant attire, the emerald green gown flowing gracefully, and the tailored dark suit perfectly fitted, each step purposeful and commanding attention without a single word. The gentle hum of conversation, punctuated by the soft resonance of a string quartet, created an ambient rhythm that mirrored the poised cadence of their movements, while the polished marble floors and crystal-accented tables reflected glimmers of light that emphasized the elegance and influence radiating from their presence. Guests shifted slightly in their seats, heads tilting and whispers exchanging as they sensed the quiet power and control that the two figures now exerted over the room, the energy bending imperceptibly to their coordinated authority. Vivian's gaze swept the room with measured awareness, noting subtle gestures, fleeting glances, and the unspoken acknowledgments of respect and curiosity, her serene expression radiating confidence, patience, and an assured command of her surroundings. Ethan's posture remained upright and deliberate, his eyes alert to the nuanced dynamics of the space, reflecting strategic awareness and the ability to anticipate the reactions of both guests and adversaries alike, creating a complementary synergy with Vivian's composed authority. The ambient scent of fresh roses mingled with the refined fragrance of their attire, adding sensory depth to the visual and emotional tableau, while the reflections from chandeliers and crystal surfaces accentuated the intricate interplay of light and shadow, framing their presence in a cinematic elegance that highlighted the careful orchestration of influence and perception. Each step, glance, and subtle motion contributed to a narrative of empowerment, strategic mastery, and the quiet assertion of reclaimed authority, the room itself seeming to acknowledge their dominance without need for overt action. The slight smile that curved Vivian's lips and the controlled, steady breathing of both figures conveyed calm assurance and the satisfaction of presence fully recognized, leaving Nathaniel Drake and the surrounding guests acutely aware that the evening's unfolding events were now directed by these two poised and commanding figures. Every detail, from the glint of light on polished surfaces to the delicate ripple of fabric as they moved, reinforced the cinematic composition of control, elegance, and influence, creating a tableau of anticipation, subtle tension, and sophisticated power that would hold the audience in suspense as the next moments of social dynamics and personal triumph prepared to reveal their full impact in the gala's grand narrative. Madeline Hayes and Ethan Drake reached the center of the grand ballroom, the warm golden light of chandeliers reflecting across polished marble floors and casting soft, intricate patterns on the walls, their presence commanding attention without a word. Guests in tailored tuxedos and elegant gowns subtly shifted their focus, whispers rippling through the crowd as the quiet authority of the two figures became impossible to ignore, each gesture, glance, and measured step conveying composure, confidence, and strategic awareness. The gentle hum of conversations, punctuated by the delicate notes of a string quartet, provided a rhythmic backdrop that emphasized the controlled cadence of their movements and the heightened anticipation in the air, the ambient scent of roses mingling with fine perfume reinforcing the sensory elegance of the scene. Vivian's emerald green gown shimmered under the soft light, accentuating her graceful poise and the understated power she radiated, while Ethan's tailored dark suit highlighted his steady, attentive posture, together forming a complementary visual statement of unity and influence, their coordinated presence subtly reshaping the dynamics of the room and guiding attention through deliberate composure. Nathaniel Drake observed from the edge of the room, his expression tight with the recognition of shifted power, his once assumed control now tempered by the undeniable command and presence projected by Vivian and Ethan, each micro-expression reflecting the tension between past expectations and present reality. The polished floors, crystal-adorned tables, and chandelier reflections enhanced the cinematic tableau, emphasizing the elegance, authority, and precise orchestration of each movement, gesture, and glance, while the soft interplay of shadows and light created depth and visual rhythm that reinforced the narrative of empowerment and strategic mastery. As Vivian and Ethan moved with quiet confidence through the crowd, each nod, smile, and subtle shift in body language communicated engagement without dependence, command without aggression, and an unmistakable assertion of reclaimed space, influencing the social atmosphere and guiding the perception of every attendee. The room seemed to pulse with anticipation, the alignment of attention, slight postural adjustments, and collective awareness amplifying the impact of their presence. Every reflective surface, ambient sound, and visual detail working in concert to underscore their composed, deliberate authority. The scene captured the essence of subtle confrontation, social strategy, and quiet empowerment, leaving Nathaniel, the guests, and the observing audience suspended in tension and expectation, fully aware that the evening's unfolding events were now being shaped by the poised mastery, calm confidence, and deliberate presence of Vivian Hayes and Ethan Drake as they continued their measured, elegant progression through the grand space. Their presence as attention aligned and whispers of admiration, surprise, and curiosity rippled quietly through the guests. Nathaniel Drake observed from a distance, his composed exterior betraying a flicker of uncertainty as the reality of the shifted dynamic became increasingly clear, each subtle acknowledgement of influence, poised movement, and confident expression from Vivian and Ethan amplifying the sense of tension and anticipation in the air. The reflections of chandeliers and crystal surfaces created intricate patterns of light and shadow, accentuating the fluidity of their gestures and the calm, deliberate mastery with which they navigated the space, highlighting the interplay of elegance, presence, and influence without the need for overt assertion. Every sound, from the soft clinking of glasses to the faint rustle of silk and murmurs of conversation, contributed to the layered sensory narrative, reinforcing the cinematic atmosphere and the sophistication of the social environment they commanded. As they moved slightly to adjust position and engage with the subtle movements of surrounding guests, each motion was deliberate, harmonious, and expressive, projecting confidence and strategic awareness while maintaining the serenity and poise of a carefully orchestrated presence. The ambient sense of fresh roses and refined perfume accentuated the visual elegance and further grounded the scene in a multi-sensory experience, while the soft interplay of light and reflective surfaces emphasized the intricate choreography of observation, influence, and silent authority. Every moment, from the controlled pace of their steps to the nuanced eye contact and gentle nods exchanged between them, built a layered narrative of empowerment, strategic foresight, and composure, leaving Nathaniel, the guests, and any observers suspended in a state of anticipation, fully aware that the evening's unfolding events were being guided with precision, poise, and the quiet dominance of Vivian Hayes and Ethan Drake as they commanded the ballroom with effortless grace. Madeline Hayes and Ethan Drake stood together at the center of the grand ballroom, the soft golden light from chandeliers reflecting across polished marble floors and crystal-accented tables, highlighting the deliberate elegance and poised authority they radiated as whispers and glances rippled through the assembled guests. Vivian's emerald green gown caught the light with every graceful movement. The gentle curve of her baby bump a subtle testament to the life she carried forward, while Ethan's tailored dark suit emphasized his attentive composure, together forming a harmonious visual statement of unity, confidence, and influence that reshaped the room's energy without a single word spoken. The gentle strains of the string quartet blended seamlessly with the ambient hum of conversations, creating a rich auditory backdrop that mirrored the deliberate cadence of their steps and the tension of anticipation. The soft fragrance of fresh roses mingling with refined perfume reinforcing the sensory depth and elegance of the scene. Reflections from chandeliers, crystal surfaces, and polished floors amplified the presence of both figures, casting subtle glimmers and shadows that accentuated the controlled gestures, measured glances, and poised postures, while each micro-expression, nod, and smile conveyed strategic mastery, social awareness, and quiet authority over the unfolding evening. Nathaniel Drake observed from a distance, his composure tempered by the realization that the influence and presence of Vivian and Ethan now dominated the ballroom. Every subtle acknowledgement, adjustment of posture, and ripple of attention reinforcing the shift of social power and the undeniable assertion of reclaimed authority. Every nuance of movement, the gentle sway of Vivian's gown, the slight inclination of Ethan's head, the precise alignment of their steps, was choreographed with care, projecting calm confidence, mutual support, and the serene assertion of mastery, each detail contributing to the layered narrative of empowerment and deliberate social orchestration. The ambient sounds, reflections of light, and the soft interplay of shadows reinforced the cinematic atmosphere, emphasizing the refined control, strategic presence, and poised dominance of the two figures as they navigated the space, engaging with the room with subtlety and precision. Every observer, from the guests to Nathaniel himself, registered the elegant authority, the calm influence, and the deliberate attention projected by Vivian and Ethan, the room attuned to the energy, tension, and narrative of reclaimed presence that radiated from their synchronized and composed movements. In this carefully orchestrated moment, each gesture, glance, and controlled breath built a tableau of cinematic elegance, social mastery, and understated triumph, leaving the ballroom suspended in anticipation, fully aware that the culmination of the evening's events, the assertion of influence, and the quiet victory of Vivian Hayes and Ethan Drake were being revealed in real time, commanding attention, admiration, and subtle awe without a single word spoken. Madeline Hayes and Ethan Drake stood at the center of the grand ballroom, the golden chandelier light, cascading over polished marble floors and crystal-accented tables, creating an atmosphere of serene authority and cinematic elegance. Guests in formal attire shifted subtly, whispers circulating as eyes followed the poised figures,